One true family, we stay together.
Welcome back, it's CMDAV and I got another banger for you. We got Aleesha Storytime today. Let's get into the vid. We first see Aleesha in episode 1 of season 3 walking outside with Danielle. She doesn't like Waterloo Road and says that Jack paid her mum $2,000 to send her there. Danielle talks about wanting treats with that money, but Aleesha points out that they won't have time as they're going to be taking their GCSEs within 1 year and not 2. They come across Carla, who they think is a rule breaker, so they want to chill with her. Steph catches them loitering around outside and tells them to go inside. In Grantley's lesson, Aleesha leaves the room taking precaution as she doesn't want to be hit by the chair. Danielle asks Aleesha what she'll be doing for the school musical. Aleesha says she's got a song but she doesn't want to sing in the corridor. This prompts Carla to sing her song out of key, leading to everybody laughing at her, and Aleesha and Danielle call it unusual. Later on in the audition, Aleesha kills it, being the best there by far, gets a well-deserved ovation. In episode 3, Steph and Matt describe what they want from people who have tried out for the musical. They want people who are passionate, dedicated and hardworking, whilst Aleesha is nodding to all of this. As Aleesha and Mika are both going for the lead role, their last test is to sing to Brett as he's the lead male. Aleesha goes first and says she's thinking of playing Shannon like Roxy in Chicago, looking all flirtatious towards Brett. She gets shut down when Matt tells her to play Aleesha from Waterloo Road. Later on, Matt and Steph finally come to a decision to give the role of Shannon to Mika. This infuriates Aleesha because we all know she was better. Aleesha calls it fixed. Steph recommends to her to be the girl gang leader. Aleesha says she doesn't want that role. Matt intervenes, saying that they need her in the musical as she'll carry everyone else. She asks if she's got such a fabulous voice, why didn't she get the part? At the start of episode 4, Aleesha's annoyed with Danielle as she thought they would be walking into school together, but instead she's with her man. Danielle's man Ben tells Aleesha she should go out with Bolton because the four of them can chill together, but she's so against it. Aleesha gets paint on her jacket after Ben accidentally threw it on her instead of Danielle. This leads to her doing the same back, but Ben falls off the platform and hurts his head. Aleesha and Danielle walk past Steph's office. They tell her about Ben and his accident, which prompts her to run while telling them to get to class. Later on, Jasmine is bombarded with questions about who took Ben to hospital and why Steph and Matt both took him. Aleesha asks if Ben's dead and Danielle asks why she'd even say that, and Aleesha explains her uncle banged his head and 5 hours later he died, but it was because he got ran over. They sneak on a computer which has been left on, which is on a page about post-exposure prophylaxis, which is related to HIV. Danielle assumes Steph ran when they told her because she knew it was something serious. Aleesha told Bolton about Ben having HIV off camera, which led to everybody witnessing Bolton and his little gang warning him off to stay away from them. Danielle asks Aleesha and Aleesha says that she only told a few people. Danielle tries to leave and Aleesha stops her, saying that people have been saying that she's got it too. During practice at the end of the episode, Ben walks into the classroom and everyone stops singing. Matt asks what's going on and sees Ben, who's there to collect his sketches. Matt gets upset and Aleesha asks where he's going. Matt says anywhere she's not. He goes on to say if you want to be part of his show, they need to leave their petty, narrow-minded bigotry at the door next time. Aleesha is angry and annoyed with herself when she's struggling with maths. She tries to excuse herself to the toilet and Eddie tells her she won't help herself every time she struggles with something by going to the toilet. Later on in the episode, Matt goes to Aleesha to ask her to play Shannon in the school play as an aftermath of Brett and Chloe's affair. But Aleesha doesn't want to be sloppy seconds. Matt explains the casting reasons, but she's not hearing it, but in the end she says she'll think about it. Alicia's busting jokes in Grantley's class about horses and Grantley basically says shut up. Rhea Cheatham from the LEA asks a group of kids including Aleesha why they came to Waterloo Road. Aleesha chimes in saying beforehand she knew it was a dump. Rhea asks if everyone thought that and there's just a lot of noise. Later on, Janice rounds up Aleesha along with others to find a way to help Jack keep his job. In episode 7, Brett approaches Danielle and Aleesha to be writers for his newspaper. Aleesha asks why them and Brett explains he needs people to sniff out a few stories, bring skeletons out of closets, and Aleesha likes the idea of it. They agree to do it. Their first scoop is interviewing Steph, as Rachel says she would be a great subject. They gas her saying she's going to be on the front cover. In the interview they ask questions like what's her favourite colour amongst the different colours she dyes her hair, her favourite colour of wine. They start to bombard Steph with statements such as they heard she drinks 12 glasses a week, she had a fling with Jack and doesn't have a French degree. Steph gets more and more visibly angry, which leads to her cutting the interview short and kicking them out. At the start of the episode, Aleesha and Brett are practicing a song together. Matt says it was fantastic but wants to give it one last push. Aleesha thinks it was already quite good, so she doesn't want to do it again, but Steph chimes in saying it was so good they want to hear it again, but Aleesha claims her voice needs a rest. Brett recommends talking less. He also says that her acting like a diva is depressing. Aleesha claps back saying everyone knows he would rather have Mika there instead of her, and he agrees with her. Aleesha says if it doesn't take that back then she's leaving. Matt asks Brett to apologise and he refuses. He says there's no way Aleesha is walking off and shows her the door, which she doesn't walk through. Later on, Carla tells Aleesha and Danielle that Davina wasn't happy with her. Aleesha recommends to Carla to start a petition. After writing the petition for Carla, Aleesha and Danielle leave her to hand out a mad petition saying that the dig should carry on regardless of a dead baby skeleton being found. Last minute, Aleesha says she has music rehearsals. Eddie finds out and gets angry at Aleesha and Danielle because they took advantage of Carla due to her having a neurobiological disorder. They try to explain they were having a laugh. Aleesha says they wouldn't want to hurt her. However, Eddie takes Aleesha out of the musical and Aleesha begs him not to, but he says she's lucky that it's not worse. Aleesha tries to argue her case that family are coming to see her, but Matt says she should have thought about that before bullying Carla. She goes on to say that no one can sing like her, but Matt tells her that she's not indispensable. Later on, Carla goes to sit with Aleesha and Danielle and they move away from her as they were instructed by Eddie to stay away from her. At the start of episode 10, Aleesha tells Matt and Steph she's relieved that Mika got the part and that she was kicked off the musical. Aleesha's mood is opposite to what she was saying earlier, saying that Mika doesn't even want to be in this show and she hopes that they all get booed off so they can give them shit reviews. Danielle tells her to drop it, but Aleesha says that she wasn't practicing for weeks. Aleesha plans to sabotage it by stealing Carla's prompt book by switching the pages, but Danielle isn't wanting part of it. Later on, Aleesha sneaks into the backstage area where she changes the wires, which messes up the sounds planned. In the musical, the sounds are successfully sabotaged, which leads to Aleesha laughing, which makes Danielle realize she had something to do with it. In the interval, Aleesha already has horrible reviews ready for the newspaper about Mika, Matt and Carla. They see Carla run past, Davina is behind her looking for her, Aleesha sends her the other way. Danielle calls Aleesha pathetic, however Aleesha blames Carla for her not being on the stage. This leads to her going to a classroom where Carla's bag is. She opens her diary and starts to read it. She starts to feel bad about her treatment towards her, especially because of the way Carla sees them. This leads to them helping Davina look for Carla and they find her by the bins. Aleesha tells Danielle to get Davina. Aleesha apologizes to Carla and tells her that she's with her mates. In episode 11, Aleesha and Carla keep asking questions about Danielle's mum and how she didn't want her at parents' evening. Aleesha states that they only go to her house when her mum is out. This aggravates Danielle and she tells them to leave it while storming off. Near the end of the episode, at the parents' evening, Danielle looks very different and Aleesha gets onto her asking what she's wearing, calling her a geek. She asks about her hair as it's not straightened and Danielle says she's not allowed to. Aleesha laughs at her and Danielle storms off again. Aleesha finds her and asks her if she gets changed on her way to school. Danielle tells her she does it in the public toilets in the high street. Aleesha tells her she can get changed at her house and she'll clear a drawer so she doesn't have to hide her things at home. Aleesha is annoyed about being in the cooking class and Danielle tells her it's to be a good citizen. She's even more annoyed when the quote-unquote dumb lot are making a chocolate cake whilst they have to do the hard stuff even though they don't want to be there. When everyone's backs are turned, Aleesha and Danielle mix more baking powder into their cake mix, which leads to a mess on Grantley's face. Grantley blames them, but they said they were doing savouries like he instructed them, but Grantley's not stupid. Aleesha and Danielle seem happy and think that Grantley's going to send them to the cooler, but instead Grantley says it's too easy. He then convinces Aleesha's team to work hard to beat Bolton's team. Aleesha, Samin and Danielle try to join the protest, but Eddie doesn't let them. They finally get through to the halted construction site by running through. Mika asks Aleesha and Danielle to go to the school council meeting on her behalf to give their demands. In the meetings, Aleesha tells Rachel that they want ethically made uniforms. Aleesha and Danielle confront Samin asking what's going on as she was missing in registration and Rachel says she wasn't in school even though she was. Samin tells them that immigration wants to deport her back to Iran. Later on, Aleesha spots the immigration people coming back to school, which leads to them going to hide her in the changing rooms. Ultimately, their best efforts isn't as strong as Samin realizing she won't be with her family. In the final episode of the season, Aleesha is amongst the students giving Rachel a standing ovation after she was outed by Hordley. At the end of the episode, Aleesha is unharmed from the fire and is seen watching it at the end of the episode alongside Michaela, Carla and Danielle. On to season 4, Aleesha returns to Waterloo Road and she's first seen as part of the group welcoming back Rachel in her first day since the fire. Flick says hello to Aleesha and Danielle in the toilets and then goes into the stool. Aleesha starts back-chatting about Flick so she can hear her. She says she thinks she needs bringing down a peg or two and that she became head girl because Eddie wants to keep her dad happy. She says she doesn't think she has any ideas for the school. This leads to Flick saying to Aleesha if she has any ideas she can bring it to her. Danielle and Aleesha are looking for each other to tell each other about Marley but get annoyed when Flick is seen with him. The girls are annoyed about not being able to play football outside as the demand for girls football is little, which they deem as sexist. Jasmine tells them it was suggested for them to be cheerleaders instead, which the girls love the idea of. In their cheerleading uniform, now Aleesha starts saying Rob is the fittest teacher ever.